Hello there. Just checking the sound. Yep, that looks good. Okay, how's everybody doing? Hope you're all feeling good. Just another small bite-sized class today. We want to just increase a few more of those on the YouTube channel because we find that people are enjoying having the shorter sessions, less time commitment, of course, and maybe just making you a little bit more able to join in more frequently, even if it's not for a longer period of time. And so the purpose of the session today was to do some stretches that I think, and I'm not particularly a cyclist, but I think might be quite useful for people who are keen cyclists, or if you've managed to get out and about on the road a bit more, or off-road, of course, as well. Then maybe these are useful. Take what you like, of course. Always caution if you are particularly tight around your knees. There's a couple of postures that might not suit you, so feel free to leave those altogether, or take a progression towards those postures without forcing yourself into any contortioned positions. Okay, you might need a blanket, and that's really for a bit of padding rather than anything else this morning. So let's start off in our first posture. So these bite-sized snippets, we're trying to just make them quick, get in, get out, and then you can add any extra you like. If you want to take a bit of a longer relaxation, you can do. And so what I'd like you to do is start off with your knees on a blanket is useful. It's not essential. It certainly depends how it feels for you. And have your toes curled underneath so that you're going to keep them tucked under in this toe tuck position as you bring your knees to the blanket. This can be quite extreme, and if you are very fit or active, quite often people find that they're more tight, especially around the feet. So if you find that sitting with your hips towards your heels or upright is too intense, then you might like to bring your hands forward and take weight off the feet. But you can still work with some kind of stretch that's going to suit you according to how it feels in your body. And whichever position you're in, see if it's okay for you to close your eyes, settle in, be aware of the sensations in the body, and allow the breath to settle down as well. Breathing in and out through the nose, and know this posture can be quite a challenge, so we're not going to stay here too long, but see if you can encourage the breath to settle down despite the intensity of what's happening here. In and out through the nose, slowing the breath down, paying particular attention to your out breath, lengthening the breath, taking your time to breathe. Okay, so we've got a few stretches and lower leg targeted sort of activations today, and this is just one of the 2 foot things. So we're going to begin to gradually move from here, and so it might be worth just bringing yourself onto your hands and moving slowly as you release the toes and feet. So releasing to turn the top of the foot to the floor, the opposite direction to the way the toes were. And then we're going to shift the blanket actually. So what we're going to do is bring the blanket down, and the blanket's going to go underneath the feet. It'll make sense in a minute. So the feet are padded with the blanket. And again, see how it feels to sit your hips towards your heels. If it's too intense, again, you can keep the hands forward, in much like the previous posture. If you're wanting a bit more sensation, or you're able to take a stronger stretch, if this one's more targeting the top of the foot and the front side, top of the ankles, you can sit like this. This might be enough. Just having the weight in your feet like this, in this position, might be enough sensation. But if you're able to and want to, you can lean back into your hands. I've got my fingers pointing towards my hips, fingertips pointing towards my hips. And again, you might want to stay here. The next option would be to alternate lifting one knee and trying to target the front side of the foot there, top front side of the foot. So holding the stretch for a few breaths. Of course, you can alternate after 3-4 breaths or so. And you can also do both at the same time. It really depends where you're coming from and how you feel around these kind of movements. But it's just an interesting sort of little toolkit of movements to have pre-cycle, post-cycle, and everything in between. Great for the foundation of any activity is getting the feet suitably stretched, warmed, and energized. Okay, we're going to release from here. The next position we're going to take, we'll bring the blanket back underneath your knees. However, we're going to keep the feet and the top of the foot still on the floor. So we're moving to the calves now. Take the fists, we're going to do both hands. Take the fist and place the fist in the sort of the belly of the calf muscle. And see if you can push down fairly vigorously, depending on how this feels. You can also kind of move the hand and use the knuckles to get a slightly deeper pressure into the muscle. And of course, as you do that, and if you're quite tight in the calf muscles, you might feel this quite intensely. And that can be experienced as pain. I mean, we're not looking for pain, but it certainly can be quite intense. So back off if it's too much. But it's useful to know how sometimes we don't realize how tight we are until we target the sensation. And then you can just move maybe slightly more towards the midline, towards the inside edge of your calf muscle, and do the same again. So I'm kind of rolling the calf out, but moving the hand towards the inside edge, and I'm still pressing down again. Feels good after, but not necessarily as we're doing this. So see if it's the first time you've done this kind of thing. See how it feels. Don't go too deep too quick. Okay. And then we're going to release from here. Last one of these, and back down to the feet, but with the same action. Fist or knuckles pressing in to the sole of each foot. It does also mean that you have to sit the hips back for this one, unfortunately. So might not suit everybody. Pressing into the feet. Again, the feet very sensitive to this kind of pressure when the feet muscles are tight. If you wear very stiff, solid shoes that don't move very much in the sole, we tend to get more tight here. The foot muscles themselves become rigid as well. Okay. We're going to release from here, and we're going to take that blanket away. We're going to come onto the hands and knees with the wrists under the shoulders and the knees under the hips. And that's mainly to get the spacing from the spacing of the hands in relation to your feet. It's a generalization, though you can tweak the posture slightly, but this is a good starting point if you're less familiar with downward facing dog, and that's where we're going next. So feet and knees hip width and the hands are shoulder width apart. Tuck the toes, press into the hands, hover the knees, breathe in and breathe out, pressing the chest towards the thighs. Now don't aim to get the legs straight or extended yet. Let's move into this nice and gently, lifting the hips up, pressing the chest back, arms as straight as you can. And try to move the weight away from your hands. So more effort or more weight moving towards the feet and the hips lifting higher. And let's pedal the dog. So let's bend one knee, alternating to extend or lengthen the other leg, rolling through the feet as well. And so stretching out the calf muscles as you alternate. Okay, from here we're going to lower the knees down. We're going to come back with the blanket underneath the knees. And step the right foot forward. As far forward as you can. Aim to bring the foot between the hands, which usually means from that tabletop position that you're keeping the hands in place, but the foot coming all the way forward. So what I want you to avoid doing is starting with a small tabletop position, because that's not very much extension for your leg, especially if you watch the position of my hips in relation to my back knee. So with the wrists under the shoulders, the right foot forward, my hips are further forward than my back knee. Okay. Keep the right foot flat to the floor. You can tuck or untuck the back toes, but lower with the hips. Find your balance. Lift the chest. We're going to rise up with the upper body, reach up with the chest. We're going to take the right hand onto the left elbow. And the left hand is reaching behind, reaching between the shoulder blades, should I say. Okay, we're going to just check you've got the left elbow up and the right foot forward, and then lean over to your right. Let's release the arms here. Inhale, reach up with the arms. And then exhale, tuck or hook the left elbow across the outer right knee or thigh. Press the two palms together and see if you can press the right hand, top hand down to help spin towards the right side. Abdomen towards the right thigh. And you're trying to turn the chest so that the hands are moving sort of towards the center of the chest. Might not be all the way there, but you're pressing the top hand down, spinning the spine, widening the lower back. And then releasing the hands to the floor. Let's step back, downward dog. So if you can leave the blanket there, we're going to do the second side from here. Take a few breaths, downward dog. Maybe the legs feel a little bit more alive or awake. If they feel a little bit warmer, you might feel that you can keep the legs a little bit straighter, but not necessarily forcing them straight, because you want to keep pressing the chest back. And so one of the things I want you to think about in downward dog here is how this is the opposite of what we tend to do in our upper body when we're cycling. There's often a lot of hunching, rounding in the upper body. So this is your opportunity to extend the upper back, to pull the shoulders in the opposite direction to what we tend to be in when we're in a cycle position, which is why this can be tough, right? Of course. Let's prepare the second side, knees down. Let's step the left foot forward. Remember, long lunge, your hips are further forward than your back knee to stretch the front of the back thigh. The left foot's flat to the floor. Let's keep the hands down for a moment, actually. Lift the chest, pull the shoulders from the ears, hips low. And then rising all the way up with the upper body. Staying low in the hips, still reach up with the arms. And then we're bringing the right palm between the shoulders. So right elbow is upwards. Catch the right elbow with the left hand. And then slightly bending over to the left side. So it's like arching over to the left. Inhale, reach up with the arms. Exhale as you bring the right elbow across to the outer left knee, thigh. Try and turn as far as you can to your right, so left side, pressing the left hand down and spin the chest round. And exhale, release, bringing the hands down. Step back to downward dog in your own time. Good. Hopefully feeling a little bit more awake and energized if your muscles are quite tired. This time we're going to lift the right leg, extend the leg up high, inhale. Exhale, step the right foot forward again between the hands, lowering the back knee to the floor. We're going to walk the right foot out to the right hand side edge of your mat. And then we're going to fold on the inside of the right leg with either the hands on the floor, or if you're able to go lower, you can bring the elbows down to the floor. If you're not able to go that low, you could reach the hands forward and bow down that way. And then from here, we're going to slowly rise up. We're going to keep the right foot forward, but walk the foot slightly in. So it's back to the hip width sort of position in relative to the left leg. But we're going to scroll the foot further forward than what we were. So your heel is further forward than your hands. And then we're going to extend the right leg. And as you're extending the leg, flex the front right ankle. You want to try to keep the left hips over your left knee roughly. And then playing around extension in the right side. Of course, particularly good posture at targeting the hamstrings. This is half Hanuman or half split posture, half splits. It's a nice controlled way in working with the hamstrings. You might like to fold over the right leg more if your body wants to, might not want to. And now we're going to stay with the right foot out in front, bend the knee a little bit, right knee's bending, and then walk your right heel over to your left side, left edge of the mat. The hands then go on the outside edge of your right leg even, and then sending the hips back. Maybe now feeling a little bit more work into the outside edge, outside of the right leg and hip. Again, try to keep the ankle flexed. And then releasing. As you bend the knee, drag the knee back. Press to the hands, inhale, tuck the toes, exhale. And notice how the right side compared to the left side feels, if there's any obvious differences or whatever sensations you're experiencing here. Maybe the legs are a little bit straighter than the previous rounds of downward dog. Inhale, lift the left leg. So extend the leg up, lift as high as you can. Exhale, look forward and step the foot through. Lower the right knee. Walk the left foot to the outside edge of the mat. Rotate at the left hip. And the hands are forward or elbows down, depending on how you experience this. Trying to lower down the inside edge of the left leg. Upper body's lowering down. And then we'll begin to rise. Bring the left foot back to a hip width position, but crawl the left foot forward so the heel is further out in front. Extend through the left leg or make it straighter. Use your hands on the floor for your support here. Inhale, look forward. Flex the left ankle, draw the toes back, and you might fold. You don't have to fold to get sensation anyway. Steady breaths. And then release a little bit, bend the knee and walk the foot over to the right hand side of your mat. And then extend the leg again, flex the ankle, hands on the outside of the leg. And you might fold, you don't have to fold again, but certainly sort of working with how this feels and playing with the sensation to an appropriate level or awareness, but not pain. And then slowly releasing, bend the knee in order to maneuver easily. And you can take a downward dog if you like. You can have a rest in tabletop. And this time we're going to move the blanket out the way just to make it easier to transition down. We're going to come to the floor with the body, front side of the body on the mat. So bringing yourself to a tabletop position, your shoulders over your wrists, your knees are still underneath your hip joints. Have the toes tucked underneath, and you're going to use your arm strength here. If you've never done this before, it's a little bit tricky the first few times, so it's one to practice for sure. But you're aiming to arch the back, so we start off by arching, tilting the tailbone towards the sky, lifting the chest. And the key thing to remember here is to keep the shoulders from the ears and the elbows hugged in towards the upper body. Don't let the elbows go wide. I'm going to repeat this a couple of times so you can see the maneuver, then you can practice handling in. Maybe you want to pause and do it again as well. So elbows hugged in, arch the back, keep the back arched, aim to get the chest, if you look where my chest is going to land, between the hands, not behind the hands. So when I'm down on the floor now, I've got toes, knees, hands, chest, and chin. Gently on the chin, on the floor. The best way to come out of this is to lower down to the mat. So untuck the toes and then come all the way back up. You can come back to tabletop position if you want to practice that again. So toes tucked, knees under hips, wrists underneath shoulders. Arch the back, lift the chest. Elbows, remember, keep them in. Inhale. Slow exhale, nicely controlled. Chest between hands. Notice how, of course, my hips are still in the air as I've landed the chest and the chin gently down on the floor. And then to exit, lay down on the mat. I'll try that one more time. It's called, well, sometimes it's called knees, chest, chin. Not exactly a creative name, but it's also called Ashtanga Namaskar. It's basically 8 limbs or 8 points connected to the floor. The 2 feet, the 2 knees, the 2 hands, the chest and the chin. So the 8 points of contact on the mat. Everything else is clear of the mat. Elbows in, arch back, inhale, lift the chest. Exhale as you lower. Untuck the toes. We're going to stay down on the front body this time. Bring the left forearm across and lift the chest slightly. So your left forearm is just supporting you to lift your chest up. I'm going to take the right hand and hold the opposite left ankle. So opposite hand to foot or ankle. And then push that left foot into the hand to kick away and see if you can maybe lift the thigh, left thigh a little bit. Lift the chest. So actively lengthening, arching the back and pushing the ankle foot into the hand. And then we're going to lower the upper body down and draw the left heel in towards the left buttock. Press the front side of your pelvis down into the mat. Front side of the pelvis presses down. And then releasing the left side. We're going to go to the second side. So crossing or bringing your right forearm across. Support to lift the chest, and then left hand, right ankle or foot. Wherever you can reach. Kick back with the foot. Keep lifting the chest. Steady breaths. And then as you lower the chest, draw the right heel into the right buttock, in that direction anyway. Might not touch there, but lengthening the right thigh by pressing the front side of the pelvis down into the floor. And then we're going to stay on the front, so release the forehead or chin down to the mat. Hold one hand on each ankle or foot. And we're going to stay low. We're going to pull the heel into the buttocks and press the front of the pelvis down. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Elbows as if they're moving towards each other. And then releasing the hands and the feet. Let's roll over onto the back of the body. So you could just flip straight over if you're happy to do so. Have the feet on the floor. Make sure you're comfortable around your neck. You want to create a straight line with the neck in relation to the rest of your spine. So if your hair is tied up, or if you've got something around the head, or you probably don't want anything underneath your head, actually, for this particular posture. We're going to lift the hips. But when you lift the hips up, we're going to bring the hands underneath the back of the body and press one hand on top of the other with the arms as straight as you can. Okay, so we're going to lift up. Don't go too high straight away, but then pressing one hand on top of the other hand. And then if you watch my shoulders, I'm not going really high with the hips yet, upper outer arms and shoulders roll towards the floor. I'm pressing down with my hands now and outer edge of my arms. And then you can drive the hips up a little bit higher. Maybe lifting higher with the hips. Try to keep your arms straight. Mine are not wanting to stay straight here. Try to keep your arms straight to work into the shoulders more. And then we're going to sit down on the hands. Check that's okay for your hands and wrists. And put the weight of the pelvis onto your hands. And then encourage the upper outer arms to stay rolling towards the mat. Just 2 or 3 breaths here. Notice which way the hands are placed. We're going to do this the opposite way, opposite hands stacked on top. We're going to press down through the feet. Inhale, lift the hips up. And then recross with the opposite hand on top. Again, try to keep the arms straight. Roll the outer arms down towards the mat. Keep the chest lifting, hips driving. And the kneecaps and thighs, bones pointing directly forward. Try not to go wide. Knees are going directly forward, hip width if you can. And then gradually lowering down to the floor. Or sorry, down to your hands. You're resting the hips again on the hands. Shoulders back, upper outer arms towards the mat. Resting the hips. Okay, we're going to release now. Release the hands and bring the pelvis all the way to the floor. Okay, make sure you've got some space. We're going to do a twisted roots posture, which is just basically a variation of a twist, which has a little bit more emphasis into the outer hip and thigh. First, most of us anyway. Okay, so we'll lift the feet from the floor. You're going to cross the left thigh over the right thigh. So cross above the knees if you can. And then you're going to either bring the calves close together, lower legs together, or you might be able to tuck the left toes behind the right calf. The feet are going to stay lifted and the legs are both going to stay bent. They kind of have to stay bent in order to maintain the twisted root part of the posture. Reach the arms wide. You've just checked you've got your left over right, and then you're going to let the legs drop to the right. And see what happens. Your feet, your one foot might come to the floor. The knees might still hover in the air. Roll that left shoulder towards the mat and turn the head to the left. And then coming to center, head and legs through center. Hover the legs, feet lifted, and uncross, recross, right over left. Bend the knees, maybe tuck the right toes behind the left calf. We'll reach wide with the hands and gradually let the legs move to the left side. You've got your right leg on top and the legs over to the left side. Maybe turn the head to the right. And then through center with the legs, the head, uncross, bring the feet down to the mat and bring the arms in. We're going to roll over to one side, whichever works best, to bring yourself, come all the way up, and then take a seated position. You could sit back on the heels, almost like we did at the beginning, or you might want to sit cross-legged. We're going to take a little bit of a neck stretch and a wrist stretch as well. Okay. Let's bring the hands forward and bring the right over left. I'm doing the mirror image here. So bring your right arm over the left arm. Turn the thumbs down, interlace the fingers. And now don't force this. Just see how it feels. Remember, you might have done this as a kid. Is to roll the hands through. And if you're able, you might find you can get the arms straighter. Don't force the arms to this. And there might be lots of reasons why you can't get the arms straight. And then gently come back to the beginning. Uncross, recross left over right, interlace the fingers. Oh, didn't say roll the thumbs down, interlace the fingers, and then see what happens on the second side. Okay, we're going to release the hands and arms. Bring your left hand onto your right shoulder, but what you're trying to do is gently pull on the skin and the tissue on the right hand side of your neck. So I'm placing the hand on the shoulder and then I'm pulling down with the hand away from the midline, away from the center of the body. And I'm going to do the same with both hands actually. So I'm pulling down and away, down towards the right, and then let the head drop gently over to the left. And so we're emphasizing this soft tissue stretch around the right side of the neck. With the head over to the left side, now begin to lift the chin. And you probably feel that a little bit more around the neck. So you don't have to lift it all the way. As if the gaze is towards the sky on the left-hand side. The other thing you can do here is jut the jaw forward for even more emphasis around the neck. And then releasing. Okay, we'll do the second side. So right hand on the left shoulder, and the left hand the same. Move the hands, pull the skin tissue down towards the left side, and then the right ear towards the right shoulder. And then gently lift the chin up as if you're looking up towards the sky on a diagonal. Chin jut forward, lower jaw. And then releasing back. We're going to come onto the hands and knees for the last little set of stretches, which again you could use the blanket for. And we're looking at the wrists this time. So tabletop position as per previous setups. And then see how it feels to turn the fingertips all the way towards the knees. If that's not possible, go with the fingers either slightly round out to the side, or maybe you can move part way round. But do what feels appropriate. If it feels very intense, move the hands closer to your knees. If you want more intensity, then move the wrists away from your knees. You can also lean back as if the hips are going back. And then releasing one hand at a time to bring the fingertips forward. And we're going to do one more stretch here into the back of the wrist. So just one hand at a time this time. And although we're going to bring the fingertips towards the direction of the knees, it's the back of the hand on the floor. So the palm facing upwards, a little bit of weight into that right wrist and hand. And try to keep the right elbow straight and turn the inner elbow, if possible, forward rather than allowing it to bend. So in the direction of moving the inner elbow forward while straightening out the arm. And then releasing that side, we'll do the second side. Of course, begin to notice differences quite significantly between the two sides. Sometimes the dominant hand is tighter. It's not the same for everybody. Or maybe the dominant hand is more flexible because it's been stretched more. I don't know. But for whatever reason, we're not always 100% balanced. And that's normal and quite typical and expected. Again, inner elbow forward. And then releasing that hand, we're going to begin to move the hips back towards the heels. You might want to rest the wrists now. If the forehead reaches the floor, you can rest the head on the floor, and then you could bring the hands by the side of the body with the palms up, soft wrists, fingers, and palms relaxed. Close the eyes, take a few breaths in child pose. This could be your final posture. This could be a nice wind down to rest. Or you could, of course, evolve this into relaxation, lay down on your back. You could lay with something under your head. You could have your knees bent or extend the legs. But laying out is a great way to finish the practice. I'm going to leave you here and you can decide where to go for this final portion of these shorter classes. So thank you for your practice. Have a great day. Namaste.